Welcome ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack. Today we're going to talk MIG welding. Jason wants to weld some exhaust tubing. We can see if we can help him out. On this particular machine, this button here is for when you normally weld. You pull the trigger, you weld, you leave it, it stops. If I switch this on the bottom and you pull the trigger, you can leave it and then you can weld continuously. When you're done, you just trigger it and leave it and the machine will stop. Alright, this is your feed rate for the wire, meaning that the rate the wire is coming out of the torch. Usually here about 3 or 4 would be sufficient. This is your amperage. What I would suggest is, if you tag something with a torch, that someone watch the amperage. Some machines don't show the actual amperage before you weld. They actually show true amperage when you're welding. So that's also why you have to watch how much amps you're pulling. Sometimes it will say 48 amps, but when you weld it will go over 60 amps. So just watch out for that. This specific button here, this button, it's on the top now. It's for 1mm wire and 0.8 wire. If I switch that to the bottom, it will be for thicker wire than 1.2, and it will be more for stainless steel 308, 316, 309, and those are things we don't often use in CO2. It is very expensive. I have rolls of wire and I rarely pull those wires out of the cupboard. For thin wall piping, stainless steel and stuff, aluminium, I prefer using the teak. Even though I have a aluminium spray gun for the MIG, I use that only for heavy duty. My preferred method for thin wall would be this. Now what I did, I made a flange and I cleaned a piece of tubing and I drilled the hole in here. So we're going to talk at the table about that. Let me just move you away. Now before you're going to put this flange and this pipe together, you can use a magnet like this and then tag it in place. But after you tagged it, remove this magnet. It can affect your welding. Don't just leave it on the table, or rather if this is on your table, put it on a piece of plank. So don't leave your magnet where it can actually touch the table. It can affect, I've seen it many times, people will come and say, look, please look at this machine, we have a problem. And then I'll test the machine and I'll tell them there's nothing wrong with the machine, and I'll ask them, did you use these magnets? They say yes, we used it. I said, did you remove the magnets? No, we didn't. There's your problem. So if you have this on your table, put it on a piece of plank. Don't leave it over to the table. Alright. Now for Jason's application, this is like a factory weld, what you will see usually on exhaust manifolds and so on. It's not always necessary to push the torch. A lot of people forget the advancements in MIG welding and in welding equipment. It's come very far. Even a cheap machine can be very, very effective. Doesn't mean that it's a cheap machine that it's not effective. A lot of people say, yeah, the machine is cheap, it's not really this good, it's not really that good. But he's got a machine at his shop, that's at the place he works, that's $10,000. I mean, there's a big difference, and a normal cheap machine can do the same work. There's no need for that type of expensive machine. If you can afford it, it's good. If you can't, there's other ways of getting machines like that. You go to places that sell second-hand lathes and milling machines. You can buy a very, very good machine there for a third of the price sometimes. Okay, let's get back to the welding. Now a lot of people will say, okay, before you weld, clean the surfaces with acetone, and they don't have gloves and stuff on. Acetone is a cancerous chemical, and you have to be smart when you use chemicals. I don't know why women put that stuff on their nails. It's terrible. So be aware when you use chemicals and when you weld. Look around for batteries, especially when it's hot. Batteries gives off gas, and that gas will actually flash, and it will ignite that battery and it will explode. So that thinness, all those types of chemicals, remove it where you weld, and keep a fire extinguisher. Very, very important. Right. So if you can't weld like this first weld here, I mean, you're gonna have to practice to get this right. What you can do is you can tag it. You get a nice amp rate where you don't burn through the metal, and it's a nice hot weld, and you can tag. Then you get a neat weld like that. There's nothing wrong with that weld. It's perfect for exhausters. I'd even do this myself if it's in a very difficult space and you just can't get in there with a torch properly. Right. This will take some time getting used to, but this is a pulled weld. A lot of people will say don't pull the torch. There's nothing wrong with this weld. It's strong enough. If you learn, and then just make sure you have enough filler, that you don't leave a too thin step here. Let me bring it closer. So you can see the weld is nicely filled. You will see a lot of people sometimes, they will weld and it will look as though the welding, it looks like it's casted into the metal. It is weak. Don't trust it. A lot of torsional force on that thing, and it's off. Mining applications, it doesn't work. Tractor exhaust and stuff, people will just weld it a thing thinly and it breaks. Don't do that. Right, let's talk about the regulator. The regulator have numbers here. There's 5, goes 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You want to be between 5 and 10 usually. If you have a bit of wind, you want to bring it up to about 10. It's sufficient. That 10 is sufficient flow for thick materials like this. I welded this on 10 because we had some wind and it was extremely hot today. Extremely, like 38 degrees. Now this is just something I made up. If you want to weld a tube, you need 2 of these sets, 2 rollers, 2 plates. You put the pipe and you can put your torch and you can weld it. If you put it like this, you have another roller here, and then you can turn it and you can weld a very nice bead around the pipe. Especially if you have a long piece, it's sometimes awkward to handle it. You don't have to go this big on rollers. This is job specific. I have something that I have to do. Right. A simple way of doing it is you just take 2 pieces of flat bars, 3mm, something like this, and drill a hole. And this is just for security gates and stuff. You weld it on, you put a roll bolt through. So you can put a bearing on this, put a bolt through it with a washer in between, so the bearing turns nice and free. Then you weld it onto your flat. You have 2 of these, but you have to make 2 sets, so your pipe can lie nice and flat. Inexpensive way to make a roller. Right, let's look at the top one. So this is your pipe, yeah, and this is your flange. Your flange is thicker than your pipe. You want to weld from your flange towards your pipe, from the flange towards the pipe. Don't go and try and pull the weld like that. You have to weld flange, pipe, flange, pipe, flange, pipe, flange, pipe. What happens if you pull this, it doesn't matter if you weld it from the side or from this side. If you pull that welding, it can create a crater here. You don't want to do that. You can rather do a proper tag in stages. If this pipe was lying like this, you would tag it. I see a lot of people where they will put it like this and they'll pull the weld. The thing is weak, it's gonna break. you can bend the thing. If it's 2-3 feet long, you can just clamp it and break it off. It's not strong. I see a lot of people do it on structural steel also. They've got a beam here, they've got a beam here on the wall, and they will pull the weld. That thing will give you sleepless nights. Don't do it like that. You're better off taking your time and just do a proper tag. That thing will be strong enough. So thick flange, you'll put your wire will go from there to the pipe, there to the pipe. It's not necessary to over weld stuff, but just make sure you do a good job. So important thing, flow meter. There's a ball in here. When you pull the trigger, you'll see the ball. Make sure it's between 5 and 10. Also, when to check on the welding, you see this welding is nice and clean. I didn't even brush it. This is just how I welded it. It means if this was now dark, discolored, it means that it's burning too hot for the amount of gas that there is. So if it discolors and it looks like rust, that's your problem. Just bring your amps a little down, or bring your gas rate a little bit up. So for Jason's application, for his exhaust system, I drilled a hole. It's in a lathe right through this, push the pipe through. What I do on my stuff usually is I'll weld it here and then I'll grind it clean. But you have to watch out for the spark inside the slag. You have to clean those things up. Those things destroy turbos. If you don't want to take a chance, just weld it on the outside. Tag it. Once this one is hot, tag non-stop. This weld is as strong as this weld. There's no difference. This is what started me in engineering, is welding. When I was young, I took 2 flat bars or round stock, whatever I could find, and I laid them next to each other, and I started welding, stick welding. I actually stole a welder. I pulled it around the house. That's how I learned welding, and then that's what got me into welding and in this trade of machining and engines. You have to practice, and nothing is easy. I'm sure Jason is going to make a success of it. Okay, another thing on those pipes that Jason has on his car, where the Y connector is, you have to know the materials. You must look out for materials. That particular pipe was designed in about 1988. Really used a lot through the 90s. That silvery pipe is actually an anodized pipe. It's done at 0 degrees. It is really difficult, even if you use a good welding rod like Vitamax with a stick rod. It is quite difficult to weld those things very neat. You have to grind it clean, weld it, grind it clean, weld it. So materials, always test materials first. See, sometimes you need another rod. Sometimes you need to heat it up first with a torch to release that anodize before you weld. So watch out on materials, they're very important. This is just normal cold rolled. This is what I prefer to use sometimes, most of the time. Okay everybody, thanks for watching.